bought a house in April 2022 and paid 30% more than the asking price. The very next month, demand started falling, prices started falling as well, and the gloomier economists will forecast a 15 to 20% drop in home prices. Did I make the wrong decision? Did I buy at the wrong moment? Am I going to lose money? Here are 3 reasons why I think myself and others like me who rushed into the housing market this spring did not make a bad decision. Note that these are personal opinions based on my research, based on my experience, so do your research before making a decision for yourself. Number 1, it's important to note here that the reason some economists are forecasting a big dip in prices is because the cost of borrowing is going up. When you're buying a home, you have a certain budget. Think of it as a pie. And you've got 2 big slices that you got to take care of. The first one, the main one, is going to be the equity payment, what you're paying for the house. And the other part is the cost of borrowing, so what you're paying the bank to be allowed to borrow the money. And you have this in all your monthly payments. A part of it goes to the bank as interest, a part of it goes to your equity down payment. What's going on right now is that the slice that goes to the bank for the cost of borrowing is getting bigger. And so what we're seeing is that the equity portion of the pie is getting smaller. Not that the pie is getting smaller as a whole, but just the slices are changing, and that leaves less room for the cost of the home. And so prices are being forced down. Now, it's not necessarily more favorable to pay more to the bank than to pay in equity. Let's look at an example. We're going to be using the mortgage calculator from the Government of Canada here. First example, let's say I bought a house in April for $400,000. The interest rate, 3%, 25 years, monthly payment, and let's say the term is 5 years, which is relatively close to what I had. So if we calculate that, we can see that our total payment at the end of the 5 years will have been $113,000. Now, I'm not going to look at the total period because interest rates change, and we're looking to compare based on interest rates here. So a monthly payment is of $1,893. Now, let's go with the worst case scenario, okay? We talked about that 20% doom and gloom drop in prices. Let's say that happens. That brings us to about $320,000 for the purchasing price. So nice drop, much cheaper mortgage theoretically on the equity side. But right now, we're looking at interest rates closer to 5 to 6%, and that's for fixed interest rates. So very much higher. And you could see what I mean here with the whole slices of the pie. You win some here, you lose some here. And when you calculate that with the same other parameters, you'll notice that we're actually paying more in the 5 years if we bought the house for $80,000 cheaper. That's a 20% discount, and you're still paying more because your interest rate almost doubled. Actually, right now, what I would do if I were you is I'd go with a variable rate, because the variable rate at least has chances of going down eventually, whereas the fixed rate, you're stuck with it for 5 years. Now, all this, of course, assumes that you are buying a home with a mortgage, which some people don't. Some people buy cash. So if you want to buy cash, the next year or two is a very, very good time because you're getting a 15 to 20% discount in the best case scenario for you. The second reason I think it was a good decision to buy this spring is because I am not looking to sell soon. Now, let's be clear. If you bought a house and you're trying to flip it, this is very bad news that the prices could be dropping by 15 to 20%. But if you're in my shoes and you bought a house for at least a couple years, you're not so worried about the short-term aspects of owning that home, but rather the long-term trends affecting the demand for housing. And now we're not just looking at mortgage rates and all that stuff, which do impact in the long term as well, but you're rather looking at just the supply and demand dynamics of the market. Population growth, high immigration in the country I'm in, scarcity of land, urbanization. These are all things that are pressuring prices upwards and often beating inflation in the housing market. So if you look to these, if you're a long-term investor, what's going on right now should not impact you too much. At the end of the day, buying a home is a personal decision. Of course, it should reflect your personal capacities financially, but it should also reflect your preferences. For me, I knew I was going to quit my job this summer, and back in the spring, I had a job that would get me better loans. It was a good time for me to buy, and so that's why this whole, is it the peak, is it the bottom of the price curve, wasn't the biggest concern for me, and I don't think it should be for everyone as well. Make sure the financials work out in worst case, best case, but after that, it's a personal decision. For more videos like this, subscribe.